She's alive. Alive!
It's a live action, and we are, I suppose, on our Easter hangover here, aren't we? And this week, since it was Easter, we decided to cover, continuing on with our, we seem to be all about religion at the moment.
Yeah. Well, we'll be moving away.
Oh, yeah. Well, one more week. But it's a completely different religion next week. Way off from this. But this week, we covered the Grail, which you might know of from Garth Ennis's Preacher comic and TV show. Yes. And they are like, they're basically a weird religious cult who have been tasked with taking care of the bloodline of Jesus. Yes. And all the crazy shit that happens there. So we had fun covering that this week. But I actually, before we get into what we're going to talk about today, because today we're going to look at other religious cults, not just Christian. Most of them are Christian because that's just the way it goes. But religious cults. Before we start, have you heard of the conspiracy that there is a bloodline for Jesus?
Oh, yeah.
Like, apparently, he was married to Mary Magdalene. So, yeah, Jesus married a hooker. Just saying. But I was reading about it here, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, the belief is there is like loads more books, Gospels for the Bible.
Oh, yeah.
But the church, the Christian church, Catholic church and all that are controlling it, decide what goes in and what stays out.
They do. There's loads more gospels. Like even the Dead Sea Scrolls that they found are pretty much gospels, like, but they just wouldn't bring them into the Bible.
And there's a shitload of signs that Jesus would have been married. Number one, Jesus never actually preached celibacy.
No.
He never said he was for celibacy, and apparently it would have been extremely strange for a Jewish man not to have married. That he would have been seen as like a fucking complete weirdo altogether to not get married. And that celibacy was actually condemned by their religion.
Yeah.
And so it's believed that he most likely would have been married, and that there's a lot of evidence throughout the Bible that is there. Like there is the Book of Revelations at 19:7-9 and 21:9 that there was the marriage of the Lamb and his wife, and Jesus is often called the Lamb of God. And there was something to do with 12 other lambs there as well, which would be the 12 disciples. There's belief that King David and King Solomon, is it, were descendants of his.
Yeah.
And then there was another thing about in the Bible, I think it was Luke 22, 28, 29, the birth of a son of the Son of Man. So again, that's more proof, like, and apparently, like, this would have been, it just would have been normal for him to have children.
Oh yeah, it would have been.
And that Mary Magdalene was constantly being put in as his companion, but not his wife. But at the same time, she kind of just goes missing from the Bible at a point, and it was pushed off. And it's believed that even one of the 12 disciples would have worked hard to keep her out of the storyline too, because he was pissed off with the influence she had on him.
Oh yeah, there's a gospel as well written by Mary Magdalene.
Yeah?
Yeah, that wasn't allowed into the Bible because it was too close to a sect kind of that emerged in the 2nd and 3rd centuries called Gnostic Christianity. But
agnostic means you believe in everything, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's another, like, it was kind of like an offshoot that kind of came out in the 2nd and 3rd centuries. So it was kind of like too close to, like, you know, like the actual Christian church didn't like their beliefs, so they omitted it from the Bible. But I know, yeah. But it's basically like even the resurrection for her in her gospel, it wasn't a physical resurrection. So like Jesus didn't physically come back in her. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like it was his soul, it was his spirit. Like.
Well, I'm just saying, it's Thursday. I mean, Easter Monday was days ago. The fucker still hasn't come out of that tomb. He's a lazy bastard.
Yeah.
Hey, but so let's have a look at some Christian. Well, I will say one more thing about this before we move on from it. I did see a documentary like fucking 15 years ago or something like that in the History Channel before I realized the History Channel had moved away from actually history and we're going with more conspiracies. But they actually narrowed down who the descendant or who claimed to be the descendant. If you were to follow this certain bloodline, who the descendant was, and he lives in Scotland.
Did you watch the Dan Brown? That's what Dan Brown claims as well.
Yeah. I suppose he's getting it from there. But is that not the whole thing of the Da Vinci Code as well, isn't it?
That is exactly what the Da Vinci Code is about. Is that the Sangreal is the holy blood, like basically.
The Holy Grail isn't supposed to be like a cup or anything like that. It's supposed to be literally him. Yeah, it's his bloodline. Exactly, it's the Holy Grail coming down, so it'll be one person.
And that when you follow the rose line, so this rose line, I don't know if when you're in Paris, if you're at the Louvre, but when you're standing out in the courtyard,
we're outside the front.
Yeah. Oh, so you'd have seen the courtyard, but when you see that that kind of like there's a gold line that runs through the courtyard. It's called the Rose Line, but it denotes some kind of, it's supposed to denote some, say, position on the globe, but the whole thing is that it actually runs the whole way to Roslin Chapel in Scotland. That's where the resting place of the bloodline Mary Magdalene is, and that's where the bloodline comes from, supposedly.
Do you think they would have tried?
To Dan Brown.
Do you think they would have tried that hard to keep the bloodline going if they had known Humperdoo is what they were going to get out of it? Humperdoo. I love that comic. I'm reading it again. Well, like I'm couldn't get all of it read before I had to write the fucking script, so I was just kind of pulling the Grail pits out and looking them up online, because I've read it a few times now. It's like my 4th or 5th time reading the whole thing through, like, you know.
But was Humperdoo, were they not was he actually a descendant, or were they not trying to bring him back over and over and over, and then he kind of got all fucked up from them trying? I don't know now. I mean, I'm just kind of.
No, I think that the state he's in is because of years
inbreeding,
of inbreeding.
Like,
is the problem.
Okay.
And that's why he looks the way he does, and acts the way he does.
Yeah.
I once had a proper preacher lighter with the communism written on it. Yeah, I lost it and I haven't been able to get one since. Even though I wanted to get one, because when we started vaping and I got the Tapo, and the Tapo was small and silver, like a little silver lighter, and I thought it would last a bit longer, I was like, oh, I should get an updated version of this and just get fuck Trump written on it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So do you know a whole pile about cults? Do you follow any cults? Have you ever had any interest in any of these cults?
I've heard of the NXIVM cult, and obviously the Latter-day Saints, the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, and a few of them.
What's the difference there? I thought it was just all Mormonism that was a bit crazy.
So I'm pretty sure that the Mormons outlawed polygamy in 1880, but then the fundamentalists were right. Well, no, that's not flying. We're going to have all the wives.
Well, they're on this list. I found a list on howstuffworks.com, and it says 10 infamous cults. Yeah, no, there's 13 of them here. Don't know why it says 10 infamous cults, but there's 13 here. Ones. So I'm just looking at the address line at the top. You know,
yeah. They're not all Christian though.
No, unfortunately, most of them. I mean, look at the names here, Amy. Well, Fundamental Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, Angels Landing, the Unification Church, Children of God, Movement for the Restoration of the 10 Commandments of God, Shirikyo. I don't know if they were Christian or not. I can't remember. That doesn't mean they weren't Christian. They were the ones that tried to they basically tried to poison an entire train full of people, as far as a subway.
Yeah, he was super interested in Nostradamus.
The Order of the Solar Temple. I think they might have been. Branch Davidians were definitely Christian. Right. Heaven's Gate were Christian. Manson family, not so much. The People's Temple, I would assume, were Christians. I think they were. See, I just think I'm terrible with their names. I know the story. But
when people tell the story, I kind of click who it is.
I know Marshall Applewhite's story. I know, obviously, the big one, fucking Kool-Aid guy. I literally said his name 2 minutes ago. Is Marshall Applewhite
the Solar Temple? No.
Maybe. Jim Jones. Dave Koresh, I know a lot about because I've seen all the stuff about them. The big ones, it's hard not to know about.
No, I agree.
Do you know what I mean? Like, Marshall Applewhite was pretty much, especially when you're growing up in the 90s, Marshall Applewhite was parodied a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know, even Family Guy did a parody of his shit. And, so did fucking King of the Hill and a few other places. I'm pretty sure after the suicide, SNL got in trouble that week because they did a Nike fucking shoe ad or whatever the shoe. I can't remember, Reeboks or Nikes or whatever. They were all wearing uniform shoes because they were cheap.
Oh, yeah.
And they did an ad with all the bodies around the place and all that, and people weren't fucking too happy.
Well, that's, bad. Just poor timing.
It is, but it's hard not to make a joke out of people like this. You know, they kind of let themselves in for it a little bit.
I know.
You know?
Not everybody on the list. A few of them were hard, like victims. They really were like.
Well, they're victims in the sense that they're vulnerable people who are falling for silly things.
But I mean,
at
like
the same time,
first one that we'll talk about, the NXIVM, like that was pretty fucking hardcore. Like,
do you want to do that when we take every second one and see how we go?
Right.
So you take it. So we're going to read the article and talk about it as we go along. So number 13 is the NXIVM cult, which is probably the most modern of this group.
Yeah, it's pretty recent. Yeah. So pronounced NXIVM because it's spelled NXIVM. Nexium. Nexium is a heartburn tablet, isn't
That's what I
it?
was just waiting, not to be fucking confused with the heartburn tablet.
It's an upstate New York cult that made major headlines, at least in part due to the involvement of a B-list Hollywood actor.
Ooh. Holy shit, huh? Cutting deep.
I was a B-list Hollywood actor. Helmed by leader Keith Rainier, one of his deputies was Alison Mack, who most notably acted in more than 200 episodes of the hit television series Smallville.
I had no idea who she was.
The blonde short-haired one.
I've never watched Smallville.
Yeah. Oh, I used to
It
see
looked
bits and
too
pieces
cheesy
of
for me.
Yeah, it was a bit.
You know, I just wasn't really that interested.
Yeah, it was never my favourite. Although it purported to offer executive success programs for self-improvement, Nexium was dubbed a sex cult once the extent of its crimes became known. Rainier used deputies like Mack to recruit women to the alleged self-help group. Once in the fold, women and children were emotionally and sexually abused, trafficked, and subjected to forced labour situations, among many other offences. Women were held against their will and referred to as sex slaves. They were also forced to turn over their financial assets and provide confessions of past misdeeds, which the cult used as collateral to keep them there.
It sounds an awful lot like Scientology.
Oh, very like that.
You know,
Self-improvement.
It sounds like the model of science. Yeah, it's trick you in as a self-help kind of program, and then it turns out, no, we're going to blackmail the shit out of these people here, take all your shit. The only difference is it's Scientology if L. Ron Hubbard was a horny bastard.
Well, yeah.
But L. Ron didn't seem to be going around riding all the people. Even did he get in trouble for? He didn't get in trouble for.
His wife's name is Michelle. Yeah.
He's had a few.
All right. What's the one that's missing that nobody's seen?
No. You're thinking of the guy that's in charge. No, Miscavige.
Oh, so his wife is Michelle. Yeah.
David Miscavige.
When I was online the other
leader.
night, there was a Scientology video thrown at me, and it was one of these like promotional ones. And somebody had commented underneath, "Where's Michelle?" And like the actual group, like the Scientology page, and they wrote down underneath, "Oh, she works in a different building to us." I meant to show it to you, but I thought
you're supposed to not leave the house. But see, when there was a bunch of shit about that, there was a wellness check done by police, and
she was fine.
Apparently, they came back and said, "No, she's fine where she is, and she just doesn't want to come out."
Oh, okay.
So maybe she's just agoraphobic.
Maybe.
I don't know. I doubt it.
Anyway. Women and girls as young as 15 were part of Rainier's master-slave setup, part of which involved the women being permanently branded with his initials. Multiple victims were forced to get abortions following their sexual abuse.
Imagine that fucking whatever about a tattoo being willing to
brand. No, thank you. Rainier was apparently adept at getting help from high-profile women. Claire Bronfman, who was the heiress to the Seagram's liquor fortune, also served as a deputy and was sentenced to 7 years in prison. For her part in the cult, Mack was sentenced to 3 years in prison, while Rainier is currently serving a 120-year sentence for sex trafficking and racketeering charges. He was also ordered to pay a $1,750,000 fine.
Fuck me. It's a long stretch, isn't it? For not killing somebody. You know?
Deserve to say.
I know, but usually those kind of numbers are reserved for murderers, aren't they?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, I suppose.
No, he's a nasty little fuck and he deserves to be where he is, but it's just 120 years is... Whew.
How long did R. Kelly get?
He hasn't been sentenced, has he?
Has he not?
I don't know. You know what? I never really followed up on it because it just seemed like he was getting it. Now everybody's, kind of being blinded by Diddy.
Yeah. 30.
Is that what he got?
Yeah.
How far in is he now? How long has he been locked up for?
31
years in
2021. It says that, in September 27, 2021, it's when they convicted him. So he's only about 4 years into the 30-year sentence.
He's a nasty little bastard too. Yeah. Do you know what always fucks me up about R. Kelly? When you watch older TV stuff before he was caught, everybody is saying it.
But it was the same with Weinstein. When you go back and talk shows and you look at interviews, there's all these sneaky little digs and stuff like that. But
these aren't even sneaky little digs.
These are saying
people
straight
are
out.
Openly fucking pointing out that like Aaliyah was underage when he got with her.
Yeah.
They've openly fucking called him out for fucking going after underage women. He was openly called out for the peeing on women thing. Like, he was openly called out for a lot of fucking shit. And it was just ignored until all the women got together and were like, nah, we're done ignoring it. Like, No, I would assume the Me Too thing probably egged them on a bit. Because it was like, all right, the support's here first. Let's do this.
Exactly.
It's just mind-blowing that someone at that level could still get away with that kind of shit, like, you know?
Yep.
I mean, when you think
crazy.
back at fucking what's his face from England, Jim will fix it.
Oh, Savile.
Savile, that's it. I'm terrible today. I'm slipping over everyone's fucking name.
Right.
Jimmy Savile. I mean, like, even to think of how he got away with it for so
That, I mean, his was
He
just
was
something
dead.
else. Going
He got
into
away with it,
hospitals
like.
and all. I mean, that was on another fucking level.
But that is like, that's the epitome of getting away with it.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
He was
yeah.
dead and buried before anybody would come forward. He never suffered a day in his life for what he did.
Nope.
Do you know? And then it's nice to see people like R. Kelly get caught for it then, do you know, and done for it, because it's like, you don't want, the idea of people slipping away with it these days is just ridiculous.
It's wrong. Yeah.
I mean, I'd be curious and interested to watch how the Diddy stuff unfolds.
They throw the book at him.
I would assume he'd have to be getting a sentence similar to this if he's found guilty.
If not more. Trafficking?
You know? Well, that's what he's done for here. Sex trafficking and racketeering.
Oh, I thought it was underage as well, but as in Diddy's is a lot more high profile than like R. Kelly's was, isn't it?
Yeah, because Diddy's a more powerful man than R. Kelly.
Sure. Yeah.
Diddy had more going on. Diddy was a bigger businessman with more fingers in more pies. Nasty.
Yep. Your turn.
Okay, so we're going to have a look at the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints.
They all have the same hair as well.
It does look like it. It looked very fucking
uniformed.
Wicker Man kind of fucking thing going on here, didn't it?
I think they might be at like a geezer or something.
Geyser, isn't it?
No, I think it's spelled geyser, but it's pronounced geezer.
Geezer is an old dude.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you still pronounce it
Like
geezer.
geezer.
You call it a geezer. It's a geezer, not a geyser.
I always heard geyser.
How do you spell it? Because it's the opposite way to how you spell it.
I have no idea. While you're looking at that up, I'll get cracking. The FLDS began not long after polygamy was banned in the late 1800s by the Mormon Church, which is also known as the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. I thought they had polygamy a lot fucking longer into it. What?
Geezer.
That says Giza.
That's because it's British.
Giza.
Giza.
That Giza over there.
Def-
So in 1998, this splinter group relocated from Salt Lake City to Hilldale, Utah, and Colorado City, Arizona, which are considered sister cities. In 2003, they relocated again to a ranch in El Dorado, Texas. You know there's trouble as soon as they move on to a ranch. A ranch or a compound. You hear that? You need to start moving away from the cult. Polygamy ran rampant, often with child brides as young as 14 years old. Mm-hmm. In fact, when Warren Jeffs took over his father's position as high priest apostle in 2002, he claimed at least 70 of his stepmothers as his own. What? He claimed at least 70 of his stepmothers as his own wives.
So they had been married to his father, but they were no blood relation. I know.
In total, he had at least 87 wives. My God. Do you know what would have been
priest apostle
hilarious?
Makes you sound like your position is really low, though, because if you're an apostle to the high priest, that implies that you got somebody over you being the high priest.
Maybe he does.
But why would he take over? He sounds like Warren Jeff sounds like the...
I don't know. Do you know what his wife should do? It would be hilarious. They could actually control this man forever, because they'd be like, right, you are going to do what all 87 of us say, or we will all divorce you at the same fucking time. Good luck paying the alimony, buddy.
I agree that there's, yeah, that's true.
Oh, I know, legally, he'd probably only have to pay the first one.
Yeah.
Jeff decided to enforce a lot of new restrictions in 2002. Among these, FLDS members were not allowed to play sport, observe holidays, watch television, read books, keep dogs, go fishing, wear the color red, dance, and so on. This sucks. Mm-hmm. Women were required to wear long what's that?
Long prairie style dresses.
Oh, prairie style dresses. Okay. And to not cut their hair. This fella seems like an asshole. What the fuck did they do so?
Sat there and admired nature and prayed, I would assume. Painted pictures? Painted pictures.
Fuck me. However, Jeff soon was caught in the crosshairs of the FBI intelligence thanks to allegations that he had arranged marriages with underage girls to older men. When he was busted trying to flee the country, the arresting cops even found audio recordings of Jeff himself having sex with underage girls. He was eventually sentenced to life in prison plus 20 years for having sex with his 12 and 15-year-old wives. So this guy only gets life in prison, but the last guy gets 120 years. That's 2 lives.
That is
a life and a half, at least.
Yeah. What's life? But life is life, isn't it?
I don't know. They usually say 25 to life.
That's murder, though.
So he is currently incarcerated in Texas. Law enforcement removed nearly 500 other children from the compound. The largest child custody case in U.S. history. But most eventually were reunited with their families. At its peak, the church had 10,000 members, but the number has dropped to below 3,000 since Jeffs was thrown in prison. So tell me this then, right? The whole sister wives shit, they'd be this.
I think so, except they wear normal clothes and they definitely wear red and definitely watch.
So is there another version of Mormons that are allowed to get marry multiple women?
I don't know a whole lot about it, but I'll see what they are Mormons. What
They don't like being called Mormons though. The Church of Latter-day Saints is what they like to be called, or Church of Jesus and whatever.
It's not you. It's the fucking. The sister wives. Is that what you call them? The sister wives.
That's the TV show, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh,
I've only seen
bits and pieces of it. He seems like an
one
absolute
clip where they had
arse,
houses next to each other, and he was going from one house to the next.
The Apostolic United Brethren, or the AUB. It's a fundamentalist offshoot of the Mormon religion. It's known for allowing and practicing polygamy, which is a key point of difference from mainstream Mormonism.
If you wanted to sleep with multiple wives but still wanted to watch television, this is the one for you. Yeah. And you love red like I do, because that will crack me right up. My favorite color is red. I love wearing red. I love putting red on things. If you notice, a lot of the covers for our podcast have lots of elements of red in it. Which one?
The AUB. Other key beliefs include the United Order, the Adam God doctrine, and the exclusion of black people from the priesthood. While not all members take part in plural marriage, it is considered a crucial step in the quest for obtaining the highest glory of heaven.
Well, I'm going to let you know now, black people, you dodged the bullet. Who the fuck wants to be a part of it? All right, you want to take... So I've never heard of this one, so this is a new one for me. Angels Landing.
Another shocking recent cult was Angels Landing, led by Lou Castro, also known as Daniel Perez, who claimed to be a centuries-old angel. Castro claimed he could see the future and cure diseases. His powers of persuasion were so intense, apparently, that he convinced a lot of his followers that he had to have sex with young girls, usually their daughters, in order to remain alive. Castro operated his commune north of Wichita, Kansas, although they were known to move around from time to time.
At what point, like, this should be like the first, most major, top red flag. I mean, it's the one thing that instantly makes your religion a cult. If the leader or the head of your religion requires to have sex with all the women or anybody in the fucking group, that more than one person. If he hooks up with one person, then maybe he just loves that person. But if there is suddenly a fucking queue of preschoolers standing outside his fucking bedroom door, you are in a cult.
Yep.
Not a religion, a fucking cult.
Yep. Although the young girls and women were clearly preyed upon, no member was safe, as it became obvious eventually that a number of deaths were suspicious in nature. In fact, 6 accidental deaths, resulting in steep insurance payments, which conveniently funded the commune, occurred over a scant period of only 7 years. Castro was arrested in 2010 and charged with multiple rape counts, first-degree murder, criminal sodomy, aggravated assault, and sexual exploitation of a child, among other charges. He was eventually convicted on all counts and sentenced to 2 life terms with an additional 46 months tacked on. So just to be sure, he has 46 months. So
die, come back, die again, then you only got, fucking 4 years, 4 years there, and you'd be grand. We release you then. You'd be fine. Still a nice young man. So, right, where are we now?
Oh, I've heard of this a lot.
The Unification Church?
Yeah.
Why did this picture here just has them all getting married?
Your man marries thousands of couples at the one time. It's like when people go to Rome to get married, to be married by the Pope, but the Pope can't do all the marriages. So.
What's the Korean one?
Yeah.
Okay, the Unification Church, formerly known as the Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of All Christianity, was founded by Reverend Sun Myung Moon. Born in North Korea, Moon claimed to have received a vision when he was 16 years old that told him he was called to complete Christ's mission on earth. According to Moon, Christ was crucified before he was able to fulfill his mission of marrying and having perfect children. That's not what I said at the start of the episode. Moon then saw himself as the Messiah. At odds with the teachings of his Presbyterian church, he was excommunicated and formed his own church in the 1950s. As the Messiah, Moon claimed that salvation was only possible through pledging obedience to him, and after 7 years of service, taking a spouse picked by him. The religion became known for its mass weddings, where he presided over the marriages of thousands of people at one time. Already a successful businessman in the 1970s, he moved his headquarters to New York, where he attracted new members to his movement as well as widespread suspicion. As a focus of the anti-cult movement gaining momentum at this time, parents of church members began kidnapping and deprogramming their children. They also filed lawsuits, and by 1982, Moon was convicted of tax evasion, because if you can't catch them regularly, you'll catch them under taxes. Now known as the Family Federation of World Peace and Unification, the church is still active, although Moon died in 2012. So, tax evasion is all they could get him for.
Yep.
Well, I suppose he wasn't doing anything particularly.
I wonder, did he register himself as a religion to try and evade tax? And then they were like, no, it's not going to fly. So now we have you as a taxpayer.
Possibly.
That's the only thing I can think of.
So two greats. All Moon and Al Capone taken down by the tax man.
Okay.
Good luck with this one.
Thanks. I knew there was a reason I started off first. You had it counted out in your head.
I honestly didn't. I didn't because I'll be honest with you. I was hoping I'd get the 10 Commandments one, and they won't. You're going to get that one.
Do you want to swap?
No, you go ahead. This sounds fun. In fact, I'm videoing it now for a promo. Let's see how you go.
Rajneeshpuram. An untraditional Indian guru, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, embraced earthly pleasures. He himself owned 93 Rolls Royces and promoted indulgence in sex. In fact, his ideas were largely rejected in India itself, and he found larger followings in the US and Europe.
He didn't have a 1993 Rolls Royce. He had 93 Rolls Royces.
Well, if you listened, I corrected myself.
Did you? Holy shit, 93 Rolls Royces.
He had a 1993 Rolls Royce.
Oh, wow. And to have that
was in the 1970s.
Holy shit. We have found the Messiah.
Rajneesh began his congregation in India in the 1970s, setting up a headquarters in Pune in 1974. However, after facing increasing hostility there, Rajneesh moved to the United States in 1981 and soon purchased land in Oregon, where followers built their own city called Rajneeshpuram. Ma Anand Sheila, an Indian woman who helped organize Rajneeshpuram, became a member of Rajneesh's inner circle. As Rajneesh no longer spoke in public, Sheila took control of daily operations in the city. By 1985, Rajneeshpuram had more than 2,500 residents, but had become embroiled in local tensions. During the previous year, Sheila instituted the Sharia Home.
The Sharia Home program. You were doing so well, right? You're knocking out all these long ass Indian names. Then Share comes up. It's like Shari.
That's because it was in inverted commas. So I was like, there's more Indian coming up. And Sharia Home. Share a Home program where the city bused thousands of homeless people in order to register them as voters there in a failed attempt to influence the Wasco County Court elections. Around the same time, Sheila and other leaders of the commune orchestrated the first bioterrorist attack in US history by poisoning restaurant food in the large town of Dallas. Dales,
I would say.
2 L's.
Dales.
Or Dals. In this attempt to reduce the voter population, they sickened 750 people.
Holy shit.
In 1985, Sheila and other leaders fled the commune, and Rajneesh was deported for immigration fraud. Despite his death in 1990, Rajneesh's movement still lives on. A 2018 Netflix documentary, Wild Wild Country, chronicled the group.
Oh, we got to check that one out.
We do.
I'll watch that.
Got to edit out the Shari part.
The next one I know, Children of God, and that's because we got a few famous heads in the Children of God.
I was just about to say it. Yeah.
In the 1960s, after hearing of the large hippie population in Huntington Beach, California, a Christian minister, David Berg, moved there to recruit the young people. It wasn't hard for him, and the hippies were quickly attracted to the anti-establishment attitude. Many gave up their jobs and donated their savings to the group to live communally in Berg's house. The group moved to Arizona when Berg claimed to receive a revelation that California would be struck by an earthquake. Members began to call Berg Moses and the group the Children of God. He called an earthquake in California. Shock horror. Don't they always have earthquakes in California?
San Francisco's in California, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the San Andreas Fault is not too far away from San Francisco.
It's like me saying, I had a premonition. It's going to rain in Ireland sometime this week.
Was there not like a devastating earthquake in like 1905 or 1906, like their worst earthquake? Well, or maybe it was up until recently.
In the early 1970s, the Children of God recruited all over the country and even set up international centers. By 1974, it had more than 4,000 members in 70 countries. That's not a lot for 70 countries.
No.
Berg wrote a series of letters to all his communities to relate his teachings. In 1978, he reorganized the group, renaming it The Family.
That's ominous. That's ominous as fuck.
They started calling themselves The Godfather.
Gotta report to the family.
This thing of ours, hey? Anyway, movie actors like Joaquin Phoenix and Rose McGowan were partially raised in the cult. So that was their parents were cult members, aren't they? And they were just grew up in it. Not their fault. However, the US anti-cult movement targeted the Children of God, and many parents of the members kidnapped and deprogrammed their children. Most controversial was Berg's progressive attitude towards sex. He encouraged open sexual relationships and experimentation. The group had also been accused of encouraging child sex abuse in what he called flirty fishing. He encouraged his members to engage in sexual relationships to attract new members. By the late 1980s, after dealing with the problem of sexually transmitted diseases, the group formally ended its practice. So
we're going to die out due to that.
So Jesus sent us a message through herpes, and he said we need to stop.
What did they think was going to happen?
Flirty fishing. I mean, if you want to get a big male fucking group into your cult, this is a good way of doing it.
Really?
Sending women out to fucking lure them in through sex.
Yes.
You're going to get a fairly... They mightn't be the most upstanding great group of men, and they might have incel qualities, but they're there.
Yikes.
And as long as you keep feeding them that sex, they're going to stick around.
Yuck.
All right, tell me about this next one, because I've never heard of this. This is... the movement of the restoration of the 10 Commandments of God. I never knew it got destroyed. I don't know what we're restoring here, so fill me in.
Well, founded by 4 ex-Roman Catholic priests, 2 ex-nuns and 1 ex-prostitute, the movement for the restoration
here
of the
is
10
like the one with the
God.
highest fucking... I look at her as the highest out of this morally.
The movement for the restoration of the 10 Commandments of God in Uganda emphasized the importance of the 10 Commandments. Through visions of the Virgin Mary, the leaders were convinced that the Roman Catholic Church had abandoned the commandments. The leaders also had doomsday prophecies, and they predicted the apocalypse would occur on December 31st, 1999.
Do you not remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I remember kids in my estate and everything going on about it. You know, it'll be the end of the world at the new millennium.
Yeah, but that was partly due to the Y2K bug as well. But
this was before the Y2K. I remember like a couple of years beforehand, kids talking about it. Older kids telling us about it to try and freak us out, because we were only young. I mean, I would have only been 12 in 1999.
Yeah, that's true. In anticipation of this, members sold their possessions. However, when the end of the world didn't come that day, the leaders quickly altered their prediction, and they claimed that the Virgin Mary would come on March 17th, 2000 to save the faithful and bring them to heaven. Still believing the prophecies, members held a feast on March 16th. They killed some cattle for the occasion and even ordered crates of Coca-Cola.
Oh, rebel.
Party.
Oh, chill the fuck out, guys. I have one more. I do have one kind of thing here as well. If you think the end of the world is coming, why do you sell all your shit? What are you going to do with the money? What's the point?
Maybe they were hoping they could bring the money with them. But
why
not
waste the little time you have left on Earth trying to flog your crap to other people?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. When March 17th arrived, police discovered that an explosion and fire had killed hundreds of the group's members.
Because they started putting Mentos into the Coca-Cola thinking they'd be all funny and...
Seriously? I'm joking. Although at first this was assumed to be a mass suicide, the evidence and subsequent uncovering of more bodies at other sites soon pointed to murder. Leaders had murdered the members, perhaps because they were unable to pay them for giving away their possessions after the prophecy failed to materialize. It was never determined whether the leaders killed themselves or fled the country.
Holy shit. This is something we might want to look a bit deeper into someday.
Definitely.
This seems a bit interesting. I've never heard of it, but this is fucking crazy. So obviously, they've answered my question here. It wasn't so much they were selling their possessions to hold on to money. He was saying, sell your possessions and give me your money.
Yeah, I think
and then when it didn't happen, he couldn't give them back the money and obviously couldn't follow through on the apocalypse.
They were fraud.
So he gave them an apocalypse. He gave them their own personal little apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly.
And he could have fled the country. This is something we have to look at. Definitely, 100%. This is going to be a full-fledged live action episode someday, is just this. So number 6 is Shurikyo. Yes. And I have heard of these guys on the last podcast once. Okay. That's it.
I've never heard of them.
And they must be right. They were formed in the greatest year ever, 1987, the year of your Lord, Dr. Smokenstein.
You're not supposed to say the year of our Lord anymore.
Formed in 1987 by Master Ashihara Soko, Shinrikyo was a Japanese cult. Ashihara had originally started a yoga school. That is also a red flag, believe it or not. Yoga schools can be dodgy.
So what yoga studios are you supposed to trust when you go
I don't
to
know,
yoga
but there's
class?
a French cult as well, and they all started with him being a yoga.
They went off out foreign though, did they? Or am I thinking of the other?
They went to America.
Yeah,
definitely.
South America somewhere, no?
Can't remember. I watched a documentary about it. It was in French, but they had it dubbed for English. I'd have to watch it again.
Yeah.
But he's saying he was still going as well. Like,
do
you remember he had the 2 Asian women around him, and he was very kind of like ordering them around like they were fucking slaves or something. They were so fucking. They just did exactly what they were doing. I was just cringy. Anyway, where was I with this? Yeah, so yoga school. But after a trip to India in which he met the Dalai Lama and achieved enlightenment in the Himalayas, he changed the name of the school to Shinrikyo, which means Supreme Truth, I think, and began teaching a combination of Buddhism, Hinduism, and Christianity, because Christianity got to get it in there somewhere with these cults. He gained many followers as he claimed to embody a god, and he secured significant financial donations. The group became increasingly radical, and defectors met violent ends. By 1995, the group had about 50,000 members, mostly in Russia. By the time Ashihara had begun preparing for war and expected Shinrikyo to take over. Sorry, how did I say that?
By this
time, not that time. By this time, Ashihara had begun preparing for war and expected Shinrikyo to take over the government. To deflect police attention away from the group's activities and instigate the violence he prophesied, Ashihara orchestrated an attack on a Tokyo subway. On March 28, 1995, 5 members of Shinrikyo boarded the subway on different trains. When they arrived at, Kasumigaseki. I'm usually brilliant with Japanese names. They each placed a package wrapped in newspaper under their seats. They punctured the packages with the tips of their umbrellas and rushed up the train as gas seeped out. They succeeded in killing 12 people and sickening 5,500. Authorities traced the attack to the group and arrested the leadership, largely dismantling the group. Ashihara was executed in 2018 along with 6 other cult members.
Not surprising.
That's a long stretch to not get killed in Japan. I thought they were very much, you were found guilty of murder, your sentence is death, go into the next room. Bye-bye.
But it doesn't say how long he was held for. So they traced it back to the group. How long afterwards did it take him to trace him back?
No. They had him fairly soon afterwards. I've heard about, like I said, last podcast covered these guys, and I remember hearing about it, and I think he was in jail for quite a while. But as far as I know, like, the Japanese are usually fairly like guilty. Bye. You know, they know there's no waiting around in death row for appeals and shit. Like,
where was the Japanese cannibal let off though? Japan.
I would assume so.
Yeah, and he wasn't. he was. They knew that he was. Do you know what I mean when you look at it like that?
Maybe.
I know that a lot of the Asian countries are very, as in like he's guilty out he goes. Oh, that's North Korea as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bad Korea, like.
The bad one. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to the Order of the Solar Temple.
Yes. So Joseph de Mambro and Luc Jouret founded the Order of the Solar Temple in Geneva in 1984. It was one of the many groups that have seen itself as a revival of the medieval Knights Templar. I'm going to call him Luke because I don't think I'm pronouncing his second name properly. So Luke claimed to be both Christ and the reincarnation of one member of the 14th century order. The leaders also prophesied that de Mambro's daughter, Emmanuel, would take the group's members to a planet that revolved around the star Sirius after their earthly death.
Emmanuel in space. Yeah.
The order.
They were not impressed when she became a softcore porn star.
The Order of the Solar Temple was a doomsday cult. De Mambro and Luke believed that the end of the world would come in the mid-1990s. However, the group lost several members, including Emmanuel, after what the leaders claimed was a vision was exposed as a hoax. Finally, in 1994, de Mambro and Luke believed the end was near and that it was time for the transit to the new planet. In order to enter a spiritual higher plane, 53 members of the order committed suicide or were murdered in Canada and Switzerland on October 4th and 5th, 1994. The buildings were also set on fire after the deaths, and de Mambro and Luke's remains were found among the bodies. It was later revealed that de Mambro had also recently ordered the murder of an infant he believed to be the Antichrist. 16 more members of the order died in France in December 1995, and 5 more after that in Quebec in March 1997.
Do you know what's the most impressive part here?
What?
Is that they set the buildings on fire after their death. That takes some ingenuity right there.
I wonder was the followers that said that they'd stay behind.
Oh, yeah. Usually it is. I think as well with Marshall Applewhite and all that stuff, one of them managed to kind of
talk him into letting him live.
Oh, we need one person here to, tell the story. Mickey and Mallory said, we need one person left alive to tell the story of Marshall Applewhite.
Exactly.
This one is the most commonly known one. Everybody knows this because Waco has had so many fucking books, movies, TV shows, documentaries. Yep. David Koresh, born Vernon Howell in 1959, he was a leader of a Christian sect that would meet a violent and controversial end in Waco, Texas. After being expelled from the Seventh-day Adventist church as a young man for telling the pastor he wanted to marry his 12-year-old daughter, so rightfully kicked out, Koresh soon joined an offshoot called the Branch Davidians. While there, he shared a special friendship and affair with the leader, Lois Roden, who named him as her successor. I believe she was an older woman too.
I think so.
He was kind of taking advantage, getting himself in there.
Yeah.
Among Koresh's controversial teachings as leader of the Branch Davidians was his New Light doctrine. This declared that all women were his spiritual wives, even underage girls and those women who were already married. See, this is literally every single cult.
Has this a gobbet?
All the fucking messiahs seem to think that it's once they say I'm the Messiah and I get to ride all your women, you are in a cult. Yeah. He declared himself a Messiah, albeit an imperfect one, and preached that the apocalypse was imminent. Koresh amassed a vast arsenal of firearms and faced suspicion of child abuse at his church center, Mount Carmel. The cult's members overlooked his sexual abuse because it was his call from God. And he had like a fucking child bride and all this shit down there. Based on the accumulation of so many firearms, the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms raided Mount Carmel in February 1993. After a shoot-off and standoff lasting 51 days. That's fucking mental.
Crazy.
The ATF finally came in and battered the walls of the center, sending in tear gas. A fire broke out, killing more than 80 members, including about 20 children and Koresh himself. The Detractors claim that the FBI started the fire, but the agency said the cult members did. Like other cults on our list, the Siege of Waco has been turned into a docuseries on Netflix. Now, this is up for debate, as to who started the fire. I think they have kind of almost conclusively said that it was inside that it started.
Oh.
That it wasn't the FBI. I don't know, to be honest with you. But, I mean, it's not like the FBI or the ATF were playing fair. because they were blasting music. Like the most fucked up one was that they blasted the sound of rabbits being killed into the thing. So the rabbits screaming over these huge fucking speakers, and then they'd play music. I think Highway to Hell was one that they played repeatedly at them and stuff like that. To try and get them out, and just any kind of really harsh noises and lights. They put lights on the building so they couldn't sleep properly. And see, I feel like I get what you're trying to do.
It was a bit heavy-handed,
but you're aggravating the situation.
Exactly.
You're taking people who are already irrational and making them
feeding
sleep
their
deprived.
paranoia and
sleep
their
deprived, and you're not
going
to be any more rational with sleep deprivation. Like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you come to my door knocking on the door and I haven't slept in 3 or 4 days, I'd probably fucking freak out inside as well.
Yep.
So next, our favourite, here he is,
Marshall.
Heaven's Gate, old Marshall.
So in the 1970s, Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles came to believe that they were the two witnesses referenced in chapter 11 of Revelation in the Bible. They began preaching and gaining followers in California and Oregon with apocalyptic prophecies about how salvation would come for those who were prepared in the form of a spaceship. There, their bodies would be kept in a cocoon stage to transform their bodies for heaven. The group was known as Human Individual Metamorphosis, and then later Total Overcomers Anonymous, before becoming Heaven's Gate in the 1990s. I agree with the name change. Members had
Total Overcomers Anonymous. Oh, shit. I just can't stop coming. Once it starts, it keeps flowing and flowing and flowing.
That's a real medical condition. There's some women that even like holding a hairdryer. That vibration, like it's an actual like debilitating medical condition for
the first step is admitting you have a problem. Now go apologize to all the women you have overcame on.
Members had to live with the group as well as give up their possessions and family. To perfect themselves for salvation, Applewhite encouraged members to detach themselves from emotion and give up sex entirely. Members dressed androgynously with loose clothing and closely shaved hair.
See, now they're after proving me wrong.
What?
Because Marshall Applewhite is one of the few cases where this cult leader wasn't looking for sex. It's actually believed that Marshall Applewhite was rather, what's the one?
Asexual.
Asexual or gay. And couldn't deal with it. Couldn't deal with the fact that he was homosexual and didn't want to go down that road. But I would say asexual would make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
But this was known for, they were known for castrating their members.
Oh yeah, I forgot that. Yeah.
So I mean, and he was one of them, and they were like home castrations. They did them themselves, or else they'd go to Mexico to do it, I think.
Christ, no. Never consisting of more than 60 people, the small group receded from the public during much of its existence, finally coming out to proselytize once again in 1993. Over the next few years, using the emerging popularity of the internet, they set up a website to help spread their message while doing web design work to pay the bills. In 1997, the Hale-Bopp comet was approaching close to Earth, and a rumor suggested that a UFO was following it. This group took the rumor very seriously and became convinced that their salvation would finally come. In March 1997, all 39 members were found dead from apparent suicide in preparation for the transition to heaven.
And I mean,
come on, like
there were a bunch of website developers who believed that the aliens were coming to take them to a heavenly plane.
Couldn't make it up.
Nerd alert.
God.
One of them was what's the name of the girl that played, is it Aurora on Star Trek?
Aurora, let me have a look.
Yeah. What's her name again? It was her brother was one of them.
What, Eartha Kitt?
No.
Not Eartha Kitt. What's her name? Nichelle Nichols.
Her brother was one of them. So on to the next one that is not Christian. I don't think it's Christian related. This was more race fucking fuel, and that was the Manson family. The Manson family definitely wasn't a religious cult.
No.
He really was pushing that we were heading for a race war and we needed to be prepared.
Yeah.
So look, everybody knows about. We're going to get into it anyway because we're going to cover this a little bit anyway because fuck it, why not? Everybody loves talking about Charlie. Charles Manson was born in 1934 to a 16-year-old single mother. After his mother was imprisoned for armed robbery, he lived with his uncle and aunt in West Virginia and soon turned to a life of petty crime. He spent much of his juvenile and young adult life in reformatories or prison. When he was released in 1967, he moved to San Francisco and attracted a small but devout group of young people who became known as The Family.
Again.
They love this title, The Family, don't they?
That's because, I'm telling you, because of how it sounds.
You come to me.
Sounds like you don't fuck with The Family.
Huh?
Protective name. It sounds like you don't fuck with them. Like.
Unlike most cults, the Manson family was not primarily religion-based. However, Charles Manson did dabble in Satanism as well as Scientology and held bizarre quasi-religious ideas. So, yeah. You had to know Satan. If it's not the Christians, it's the Scientologists. Fuck me. He also predicted a violent race war in which African Americans would prevail, but would need to then turn to surviving whites for proper leadership. So Manson was a big old racist. He planned to have his Manson family hide out during the race war and then emerge to take control when it was all over. Fucking pussies. Hiding it out. What a wuss. This is why you lose. To help instigate the race war, Manson ordered his followers to carry out murders, intending them to be blamed on blacks. In August 1968, Manson's family members killed several people in Los Angeles, including actress Sharon Tate. The coffee heiress Abigail Fogler was also one of them. I've never heard of her.
Nope.
The next night, Manson family members murdered 2 others. In both cases, the killers repeatedly stabbed victims and wrote messages on the wall in their blood. Manson and his cohorts were sentenced to death but got life in prison after California banned the death penalty, and Manson died in prison in 2017. Yeah, they'd be writing what was it, like pigs and fucking Helter Skelter and shit like that, but apparently they were misspelling Helter Skelter as well because Manson wasn't actually with them for most of this.
I bet you gave him a bollocking for that.
That's what they were trying to, that's where Manson was trying to separate himself from the whole thing. Like he was never actually there when it was happening. The belief is Manson only ever killed one person.
And that was the guy on the ranch, no?
It was a drug dealer, or he was a drug dealer or a pimp, one of the two.
Okay.
But it's believed he shot that guy.
Yeah.
And they tried to hide it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. We have one more. Do you want to cover him? The People's Temple.
So the epitome of the charismatic cult leader, Jim Jones, was a preacher from the Pentecostal tradition. Although white, Jones attracted a large African-American following because of his preaching style as well as his dedication to integration and racial equality. His teachings were influenced by liberation theology and socialist beliefs.
So what's everyone's problem with Jim Jones? Huh? It sounds like he was doing some good hard work right there.
Sure. Jones began the People's Temple in the 1950s in Indianapolis. After reading in Esquire magazine about plans or places to survive a nuclear holocaust, he moved his congregation to Ukiah, California in 1965. In the next 5 years, the People's Temple membership went from less than 100 to thousands. With thriving churches in San Francisco and Los Angeles, Jones also built up a significant amount of political clout. Meanwhile, Jones began building a commune called Jonestown in Guyana, a socialist-led country in South America. In 1977, when Jones heard that New West magazine was to publish an expose on life in the People's Temple as a mixture of Spartan regimentation, fear, and self-imposed humiliation, he and his congregation quickly fled to the commune.
Now, I joke, right, about that he look at all the nice things he was doing there to start with trying to help African-American rights and stuff like that. But the story actually is, when he started off, he wasn't actually about it. It seemed like he was trying to do good. But over time, I think, I might be wrong because I don't see it here in this article, but I think I read somewhere that he had a drug problem. And I think that's what actually got it going. Jim Jones drug problem. I got to look this up.
Right, well, while you're looking it up, I'll just do this last paragraph.
List of drugs inventory finds commune at James Jones was stocked with thousands of dangerous drugs. So yeah, it was kind of believed that this, well, yeah, cyanide is a dangerous drug. So
sure
I assume that is. But I think the thing was that he was just getting more paranoid and crazier, and that's what kind of led to this happening, this going down this road, like, you know.
Convinced by former members and worried relatives of members, US Congressman Leo Ryan flew down to visit Jonestown to learn more about it. Several current members surreptitiously sent him messages begging to leave. Just before Ryan was about to board his plane, along with cult members who wanted to escape, on November 18th, 1978, Jones's men arrived at the airstrip and killed the congressman as well as several others. Later that day, Jones convinced his congregation to kill themselves by drinking a fruit drink, not actually Kool-Aid, as is commonly believed, filled with cyanide and tranquilizers, as they had practiced before. More than 900 people died, including 276 children. About 87 survived either by hiding out or having the good fortune to be away from the compound on the day of the killings.
Well, obviously, after he killed this guy, he panicked, and it was, we have to finish it now, or it's not going to get finished because they're going to come get us now. But
can you be extradited from Guyana, I wonder?
Huh?
I wonder, can you be extradited from Guyana?
I'm not 100% sure. That could be one of the reasons he was there.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was to try and hide out.
I'm sure the CIA would have sent people down and taken them.
That's it. Yeah. But especially after you've killed the fucking, congressman.
Oh, well, yeah.
You know? Yeah. Thing about it is, like, the fucked up thing about it is, you kind of, the way you're reading it here, it's like he convinced them to commit suicide. A lot of them didn't want to do this. A lot of them were kind of forced, or, kind of... Yeah, it was okay, you have no other option, and you're here, you're going to do it, and or other people would force them to do it, exactly. So it wasn't all their fault, Yeah, it's fucked up. Suppose we'll just have to wait for Martin Scorsese's last movie, Kool-Aid, to really figure out what happened in it.
Yeah, that'll be a hard-hitting movie.
If it doesn't get cancelled by Seth Rogen. Dickhead. Okay, that's enough of that. Next week, we won't be dogging the Christians as much.
Well, they weren't always all Christians there.
Good 99% of them were.
They were.
Right, Manson wasn't, and one other wasn't. But all of them had some touch of it in there.
They did.
Nexium wasn't.
Nexium wasn't, no.
It was all about the...
Nearly an offshoot of Scientology. No, not really, but they had some... It sounded...
Nexium was about a man who wanted to get road and convince shitloads of women that
but the self-improvement kind of thing sounds very...
And the coercion with the, tell me your deepest, darkest secrets, and I promise I won't tell anybody.
I still had a chocolate bar once when I was 5.
Yo, well, if you don't suck my dick, I'm going to tell everybody. Ha 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 ha! Asshole.
Bite it.
See you next week.